Woodstock, day 2. I'm glad to see this guy over here brought his date for the pay-per-view. A lot of sex going on with Plastic Woman over here. Hey, a local guy who has made good, a native of Frankfurt, New York. He's from the Emmy Award TV show Frasier. Say hello to Paul Cusimano. Paul Cusimano made good Frasier.
Hey! Fucking guy's on a rock, man. Oh, come on, you're making me proud of me. All right, you want to rock? All right. Get ready, give it up, man. From Detroit. Rocking as motherfuckers in business today. The devil without a cause.
TC and Jake.
Jake, we once again find ourselves with a blank sheet of paper in front of us. What are we going to do with it? Produce our own facies and just smear it on there?
We could. I'm still kind of reeling over the Harden news.
Yeah, dude, how about that?
Only like half an hour old, 45 minutes old.
Just really shaking up the league.
Dude, Oladipo to Houston, which feels weird because I like him a lot, but I also think he's pretty much done. He's averaging like 20 a game this year, but there's a reason they didn't want to offer him what he wanted. He's got a couple busted knees. I don't know. I think
how many could he have?
I think the interesting thing, if we were going to talk about it from a podcast standpoint, not to make this a sports show,
it is a sports show,
is like the limits of your support for complete player empowerment. Because like obviously every single sports league is tilted.
Ooh, I already strongly anti what you're saying argument springs immediately to mind. Go ahead.
I know, but I just think, the leagues they're so obviously tilted against the players. Like the entire structure of having max contracts at all is bullshit. Salary caps are bullshit. I understand if they need to have a salary cap for quote competitive balance reasons, they should absolutely not have max contracts within that, although that also has its own labor implications because it would impact a much larger population of your workforce and would also disproportionately affect new workers. But it just seems like it's all built to protect. The Stepien rule is bullshit. All these things are basically built to keep owners from being bad at their jobs,
yes,
or GMs from being bad at their jobs, and the players are the ones who have to take it in the shorts. So in general, I feel like I'm definitely getting older on the sports front with some of my takes, while flipping the thing that we've talked about a million times, and even pretty recently, about like everyone telling you you're definitely going to get more politically conservative the older that you get, and the more that you can have a flower and two lamps, which has not happened. But I do think like when it comes to sports player empowerment stuff, like AD into Kyrie into James Harden are pushing me to my absolute limit of what I think somebody should be able to get away with at their job and not be like told at least, hey, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, maybe someone does. I don't know. But I would just say that a theme that's emerging for me in life overall is that individuals matter. And like, how I'm looking at it here is like the problem whenever James Harden's allowed to act the way that he's allowed to act is not that like the structure is bad. It's that James Harden is bad. Like he sucks just by himself. Like whatever he was going to do it in a way that sucks. And if you're going to empower the players or you're going to empower the GMs, the owners, teams, whatever you're calling the other side, both of them allow for the possibility of individuals that suck. Like, you had GMs that would handle things just as poorly. So it's not like either is a perfect system where you're going to have no bad outcomes. I would say that it's roughly similar, and that it's much more fair that the people who produce the product be the ones having a little more control over the various parameters of that product.
I mean, certainly I agree, but I think that what you have is an intersection of the two, right? Like, not everybody's going to do what he's doing with the circumstances that were set forth through collective bargaining. I mean, even John Wall, who makes $50 million a year, last night was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, we played 9 games. Like, let's just try to play basketball and, like, see what happens, and then see what happens. I mean, that dude literally for every step he runs on a basketball floor is being paid more than like the average salary in America. Or at least like I think it was.
Probably not every step.
Well, you may have been interested to know that a couple years ago, John Wall and Dirk were the last in the entire league in distance covered per game.
John Wall.
Just
Jesus.
not interested in moving without the ball at all. Was kind of only interested in and Harden's got to be pretty low too,
tough.
because most of his, creating is happening in one spot, left to right to left to right. Now we're going. But my point is just like, even I don't know that you want to draw John Wall as the guy who is contrary to your position about like trying.
Yeah. Not a standard bearer for the trying movement.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's a really weird deal. I mean, I love that the league is as strange as it is, and I mean, literally, it's something every day. Last night, I was laughing really hard about Kyrie being on a call with Cynthia Nixon. Like that was.
It sounds great. I mean, it hurts to see her getting mixed up with someone like that. I think the Kyrie just fucking sucks. There's few opinions that I agree with Dan Moore on. Just as a person, everything about him, I guess he can score points, I guess. But
no, I mean, it's not really so much about his talent, although I do think his personality affects his game in a negative way.
Yes.
As a teammate and as a team offensive player.
Him, being such a, fucking shitbag that he is, holds back his teams from having success. I'd say that's glaringly apparent.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, because we were talking about how much do you know about Jack Easterby?
I feel like I may have heard that name.
So he's the former Patriots team chaplain who happens to now be in charge of the Texans.
I read the Sports Illustrated story.
Yeah. So in the last couple days, Andre Johnson has made it known that he's like, everyone down there can't stand this guy. Like, it's all because of Deshaun, right? They're all voicing their support. Yeah. And Arian Foster weighed in, and Arian Foster was like, I don't even really keep up with the NFL all that much anymore.
Hell yeah.
And Mino said something to the effect of, Arian Foster at one point seemed like he was going to be Kyrie Irving. And my retort to that was, Arian Foster might just be sports smart, like we say sporty, but Kyrie is fake sports smart. Like, Arian Foster, I'm pretty sure, has a degree in something or other.
It's not Kyrie's intelligence that I'm mad about. It's his disposition. He's, rude to other people. He just doesn't get along with other people.
But I think a lot of that is based in his starting point that no one has his intelligence. And his intelligence...
but that's not really an intelligence thing. I guess I've met a lot of people who are pretty dumb that felt that way,
Yeah, but, I mean, he's also a guy who knows, a couple Wikipedia page titles and can throw them at you as but you just don't get it.
Yeah.
No, I don't, and you don't either. So, so this woman, we got a lot to talk about here that's not basketball related. The woman who was an Air Force veteran who was killed at the Capitol, Ashley Babbitt.
Yes.
And I think generally, we did a show on Thursday or Wednesday, we did a show on Friday, literally every single day that we get further removed from sitting here 1 week ago as this was actually happening on the television.
Yes.
I feel differently about it. And I'll be the first to tell you, I still have some of my original position, but
I don't feel like I've moved too far. Go
as
ahead.
some of the reporting is, I mean, just finding out the level of possible, not only
feel like they got a point.
No. Some of the level of possible, not only the stuff with Capitol Police who are A lot of them look like they might have been kind of on board, even if it was just an act of omission rather than commission. Possible funding that's even being reported on from.
The more I think about it, the more I'm like a little blown away they weren't more like overtly on board. Like that was clearly the crowd's expectation of them, and I shared that with the crowd.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you see this sometimes with like, even in like conversations about like policing. I'm sure that there are plenty of police who have political views or social views that they begrudgingly do not act upon in the line of duty. Otherwise, I feel like we might have more incidents of police violence, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've seen polls from.
How could you end up with more? But yeah.
Yeah. So
compared to the rest of the civilized world, where it's so off the charts, I think that what we're seeing is what you're describing. But
and it may
you're
end
right.
up there. I don't know.
It can't always be worse.
But so this Ashley Babbitt woman that was killed. It was so eerie reading about her because I just felt like she matched the profile of a lot of people that I either know or kind of know or third, fourth hand know, which is that not really that political, voted for Obama, which what's less political than voting for Obama?
Sure, yeah.
And then eventually just went down the Q thing. She would ramble on about it at barbecues, apparently, hangs a flag outside. Again, to something I've said a few times, don't really think that she had all that much interest in politics ever. You know, the type of profile that you might match up with someone who's a part of an insurrection on a federal building.
Yeah, there was
at least the old kind, the kind from like 30 years ago, like Unabomber kind.
Yeah, like Will Sommer was on Chapo and talked about, he was interviewing people at the march as the march was occurring, or march whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Incident at the Capitol, and I think there was two different people. One, I can't remember what the second one was, but the first one was someone who was like, I have cancer, but I'm down here to support Donald Trump because the cabal has found the cure and he's going to make them give it up. So like as opposed to like having a clear-headed, I think Democrats have a thing where they are pushing for me to have expanded medical care. Medical insurance.
He's going to fight the drug companies. He's going to make treatment more accessible to me.
Like someone who's plugged in politically doesn't end up with, who's going to help my cancer, that Donald Trump. But someone who's just kind of like listening and like absorbing energies. Like Donald Trump gives off an energy where he's like, I can definitely cure your cancer.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that's where you get back to the cult of personality and the savior complex. But this woman, if I may say, seemed like she was in a little over her head when it comes to what she... And look, I think that about every single person who believes in QAnon. And honestly, again, it makes me sad. I shouldn't say that I'm sad for people who have committed horrible, treasonous... Like, I don't even know if that has to be entered into it. Treasonous, like have committed violence and discord. But I do kind of feel bad for them in the same way that I don't think it's like completely out of the realm of, an acceptable comment to say that over the last 20 years, whenever you see terrorism occurring in countries where people have no chance and people have nothing to lean on but whatever fringe belief they have and they do something insane, I feel bad for those people. I think it's possible to feel bad for people who do horrible shit because they feel hopeless, and they've definitely been preyed upon. You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel bad for literally everyone,
So it's a low bar.
Like, we live in a harsh world that is fairly unforgiving, and, like it inflicts a lot of trauma that then cause behaviors that I find, whenever you look at the scope of the trauma, then to be fairly understandable. You know what I mean? Like, no one, like, you give me an example of like what a terrible person it was. I think we were talking with Josh and Nikki on our vacation about, like, we're talking about child rearing and came across the idea of like, what if you just end up unlucky and like birth a serial killer, And like I remember now, did a podcast on, basically like people who felt like they were in that situation. Like there was an article about like,
and a lot of them were, I think a lot of them also, maybe you dealt with adoption too, but it was called "What If I'm Raising a Serial Killer" or something like that.
And so I like clearly, if you're just born with no emotional intelligence, then like, or not emotional intelligence, but like just if you're born in just like that part of your brain that like understands other people as individual sovereign beings is smaller than the average person's, then like, yeah, that's definitely bad and it has an effect. But I was starting to go through the list of like, I was trying to find an example, and I'm sure there is one, but I could not recall someone, like, we're people, so we read about serial killers. I think that's a pretty common thing to do. So I can give you a little dossier on most of the top ones. And I think that across the board, it's their parents beat the shit out of them. Like something bad happened, like they were molested. Like just the worst stories of human treatment that I can recall is the stuff that you hear about for the people who, go on to become serial killers or do bad things. I just, I don't know.
So I agree with that, but I think that you're closing the circle a little bit on the cases that we're allowed to apply that to, because there are plenty of people that just like killed their family. They might not have gone on a bloodlust spree that involved them eating people and putting them in their freezer, but there's certainly plenty of people who just murdered their family who did have, a normal, non-abusive, you know what I mean? So like, that's a weird cutoff to be like, well, this person killed 15 people.
If you had someone who was a totally normal, who'd been like treated well his entire life, that then murdered their family, I would accept that as a counterexample, certainly. And I'm not, like I said, I don't think this is absolutes or, like anything. I just think that it is broadly true in a pretty powerful sense, in my opinion, that, hurt people. Like that's how most of this happens. And so like, I just think that establishes a route to be sympathetic for a person. That's like, that was the initial starting point for this conversation. Is if, just Q is filling a need that was created by something else, and that person probably didn't create that something else on their own. It's probably something that happened to them, and so like we're all victims, like.
Yeah, and I think that probably in this like equation, being serially abused, producing serial violent outcomes, like if you're just posting on 8kun or whatever it's called, and you're following these people over to Telegram and trying to mount up, but not actually doing it, like that's bad. But it also might be the product of just like, again, feeling like you have nothing. You know what I mean? Even if
and I mean, like, I want to stress that I feel that people have individual responsibility. Like it's not like because that person did that to you, then you like have to storm the Capitol. There's just no choice for you. You always have that, like, but I'm not talking about like, do I think that they did a good thing or a bad thing? I think they did a bad thing.
Sure.
But if you're talking about like, can I still see them as people and like have some sympathy and like, look at it and be like, man, I'm really sorry that you felt like you had to do that. I feel like I can absolutely do that.
Yeah. And when I was reading about this woman, again, part of some of the stuff that really resonated with me was just people that said we had really no idea how into this she was, because it really only happened in the last 4 to 5 years. It was all online. Occasionally she would ramble about stuff, at a gathering, but we just never really thought twice about this being something that we should be fearful for her safety for. And I was like, oh man, I totally identify with that. And then I kept reading, and her husband, as of a couple days ago, had not yet spoken to the media, as reporters had just, descended on their home, which had QAnon flags on the outside, the pool company that they read together, which had QAnon flags and don't wear a mask if you want to come in here signs. And I was like, man, I mean, I also I know enough people who have gone down that road. And then there's a quote that says, I actually saw it first on video when I was on the phone with multiple hospitals trying to find her, said Kayla Joyce, 29, who said she is the mutual live-in girlfriend of Babbitt and her husband, Aaron.
I also
thought,
saw this note.
well, this is the part where I don't know anyone who, like, I identified with several of the indicators of this.
Live-in's a new stretch. I've had acquaintances of acquaintances that had like an established
third party
group thing, but to take that to hey, why don't you move in
They run the pool company together.
with the girlfriend?
Yeah. And they're now
Well,
trying to
all
figure
right.
out like how to keep it going. And, you know, we were talking about this the other night over here is like, well, once the dust settles, like, do they have to figure if they want to live together or do they still do it? Have they ever done it without her? Like, what's the... There's just, I have a lot of questions, and they're not really about any of the things that other people are asking questions about. So
I mean, I think that some of those ones are pretty easy in my book. You know, like I feel like, yeah, no, absolutely, you continue to live together and do it. Most likely, you know, like assuming
I don't know
you had
though, man. That's like, you know, that's like a classic case of
like a year from now, I might want to not
wide
think
receiver
about
one
anything.
signs another contract, and you think that, you know, the second guy can just step up and fill the role.
To get me through the next like couple months, I don't need to be like finding a new partner.
You just need to stay on schedule rather than hit the big play.
Like once we get our feet back under us, we can reevaluate some things. But right now, 23-year-old girlfriend's going to be, she's 23, right?
I think 29. Yeah, I
She's
think
in
they're
her
all
20s.
around the same age.
I thought the Babbitt was like 36.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. For some reason, 29
7-year
and
difference.
36 feel a lot closer to me than anything in 23.
Yeah. Fair
There's
enough.
also a quote in
But,
this
you know,
story from one of her neighbors that
I just think about it like the Dan, his neighbor, that he asked why they had 3 kids. Like this is the same sort of situation. Like they have 3 kids because if one of the kids died, then the other one would be lonely. A little backup kid having backup wife.
so dark.
I mean that's what they told him. Like they said
Backup
that.
wife, like it's Frank Reich.
I'm just like,
Well, who knows? Maybe
it'd
she'll be
better-
Steve. Maybe she's Steve Young.
If it were me, I would rather have like, you know, the rest of that situation, like assuming that everyone continues living on a regular amount of time, I don't think I could handle. I don't think it's for me. I
Yeah.
don't feel equipped for it.
Oh no.
But that specific situation, I think that it would be a large blessing.
Yeah, I mean he is uniquely positioned to at least ride out a few months. There's another quote in this story reporting on her where a neighbor said, and I just feel like this is like Pauly D said this, one part of this. I knew she was passionate, but I thought most people don't act on their passion. To be the first person going through that window, that's next level. Yes.
I agree with that.
It definitely is.
So while we're talking about this general topic, whenever we sat here last week, I specifically mentioned, I think it was that one, might have been the one the next day, but just talked about seeing the video of the Capitol policeman going up the stairs, like kind of brandishing the thing. I assume you've seen what everyone else has seen of like putting that together.
Well, I guess not.
So, and I mean, you know, maybe you have once I start unspilling the details, stop me at any point. But so it was a video of, you know, there's a large mob. There's one Capitol police officer that at stairs, they're trying to go up a set of stairs. Just to make, you know, in case anyone hasn't seen any of this, I just want to, you know, have it self-contained here. The guy, you know, I don't know if it's his nightstick or someone else's. He sees a nightstick that's discarded. He picks it up. And he's kind of brandishing it at them. And there's one guy in like a big Q, like with the American flag as the colors of the letter Q.
Yeah, I mean, it was never going to be
Yeah.
Switzerland.
Central casting Q guy that like, you know, is kind of like half rushing him, you know, like fake it, like he's pushing this along. Like he's like, wherever you don't want me to go, I'm going to fucking go there. You need to understand that. And the guy's kind of like, I do have a nightstick, because there's like, you know, hundreds of people behind the Q guy, and like this crowd is rushing through. And so the guy is backing up the stairs, like slowing them down as much as he can. He gets to the top of the stairs. He like takes a glance one way and then like, clearly considers it for a second and then like starts walking back the other way. The guy in the Q shirt starts to follow him, then kind of does the same thing. Like he is thinking for a second because it's like you can go left or right. You're not being blocked off at all either way. And so he thinks for a second, the Q guy does, about left or right. And then, the officer's still in front of him. So he, continues to take that bait and he follows the officer. The officer is drawing him away. They figured this out days later because someone else at the Washington Post compared their notes because they were with the Congress people. There were senators right there.
Okay.
Like if they go the other way, it's fucking the mob
I've not seen the video, but I
descending
have
upon
heard.
Senators.
Okay, so that's where that was.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think there's a high chance that the cop knew what he was doing. I don't know. It's 100% chance. But I'm ready to say that that's most likely what happened, and just fucking amazing. Really great thinking on your feet. Just it's just such a instructional thing about how having more information can really change what you think about a situation. Of course, it's an obvious enough statement, but when I talked about that video, I was like, it's crazy. The guy's just being overrun. He's got no control in the situation, and seeing a Capitol police officer inside the Capitol with no control, it's jarring. But then whenever you learn the context, it's like he does have a tiny amount of control, that they are probably going to be drawn to him. And so he can kind of, route where they're going, and that he used that, I don't, who knows what happens if the dog catches the car, but you'd rather not find out.
Yeah. And again, progressively over the last week, I think I started with just this is just a bunch of, it's just slack-jawed internet trolls that really didn't have a plan. And I think, we were laughing about look, they're literally walking in between the movie ropes.
Yeah.
Orderly, but that feels like way more of an isolated thing than the rest of what occurred the further I get away from it and the reporting you get on.
I mean, there's a ton of people. Some of them were there for the kind of fucking ooh, I'm taking a tour of the Capitol. Some of them were there for fucking blood, dude.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know if I didn't want to believe it or I just hadn't seen enough of it. And then progressively again, it really feels like, I guess the only thing you can say is just that you have to hope that you just dodged an ultimate bullet and can now, put measures in place to keep it from happening again, as opposed to, boy, that showed somebody that's possible.
I do think the inauguration is going to go more smoothly than January 6th went.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that there's no way the general it's stunning, which is why there's been so much focus given to it, that they were how could we have known? And just had people out in regular non-crowd control gear and shit.
And I feel kind of dumb that I didn't know. I know the president had tweeted, something about January 6th, but I mean, in hindsight, and this is a lot of other things, especially over the last year, I guess, this was, if you just look at everything that was out there in the week before, in the 2 weeks before, it was so obvious that something very serious was going to happen. And I was wholly unaware of it. And I feel very dumb about that.
I mean, I had an idea, but I'm not going to on the next one because Twitter took down Ben Garrison's account.
Well, that's interesting too, because people are, that's the immediate response, right? Is that good for Twitter, good for Facebook, good for YouTube. And, the Photoshops are hilarious that he's been banned from. And you know what? God damn it. We have to play it later this week because if we can't listen to audio right now, the only thing funnier than Don Lemon saying pussy is Sean Hannity seeming legitimately like he needed to.
I loved it.
He needed to appeal to the good people of Olive Garden to make sure that he has never said a foul word about
Not about that, but they've never taken away his pasta pass.
Right. And he's like, I didn't apply for one. I got one, but I didn't. But he like seemed honestly
pasta pass not taken away.
Concerned.
He was lecturing guests about it. Like they're like, okay, yeah, that's good that you got it. Still.
He's like, but if you had the seriously, he was doing the joke thing you would say of have you had the breadsticks? Like,
yeah,
amazing.
No, he's doing it fairly earnestly. I gotta say, if you're forcing me to pick between Anderson Cooper looking down his nose at Olive Garden and Sean Hannity being like, fuck yeah, I got that pasta pass.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, dude, I'm not having trouble figuring out which side I'm on. If me and Sean are going to Olive Garden together.
If the slogan regarding Olive Garden was where we go one, we go all, I go one and all. That shit is...
But as it stands, it's Olive Garden, we go hard.
Olive Garden, go hard. Yeah, that is a classic quote. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Shit, I might hit it up tonight.
I had it Monday night.
I remember you texting me saying that because of this, you had been spurred into action to enjoy some Olive Garden.
Go to Olive Garden.
You know what you got to try? The minestrone. Because what you can do there, I like a little soup before my pasta, and I dip the bread. Sop the bread in the minestrone.
I usually like the gnocchi Alfredo. It doesn't feel like it should be allowed as a soup. Feels like that's a full entree, but they do allow it, so I'm going to take advantage of it.
Damn.
I'm going to be walking away from Olive Garden pretty full. I know that every time.
Damn, man. I don't know if I can finish right now.
You got to go.
It just sounds so good. Well, what I got to do is start formulating the plan of how I can sell this at home.
Well, I mean, it's endless salads, too.
I don't even remember how we started talking about Olive Garden.
Well, we were talking about Sean Hannity, but I don't remember how we got there before that.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, he was just making sure everyone understood his pasta pass.
Yeah.
He's not been taken away.
No, it never will
be. Under any
be.
circumstances.
The thing about people putting Photoshops up about what Trump has been banned by and putting that on there.
Clippy.
I think it's not that hard to make the case, actually, that is going to make predicting the next one and preventing it or any sort of thing harder. Because, local law enforcement and even federal law enforcement only have so much time, so much resource, so much expertise. And now if you've got all these people on, the sort of messaging services that The Intercept has been using to learn about human rights violations 10 years, that's going to be tough, man. And if I feel dumb that I didn't more clearly see what was coming last week, a week beforehand, and obviously for one reason or another, be it willful ignorance or lack of investigative prowess, the parties that needed to know about it didn't. Yeah. Obviously, were not prepared for one reason or another. Well, it's going to be a lot harder now. And it's going to be a lot harder on both sides. It's going to be a lot harder for them to centrally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. If they're organizing, you're going to be able to find them wherever they're organizing. The federal government, as Edward Snowden has been trying to tell you, has fairly sophisticated tools for this kind of thing.
Yeah, but that was just straight up the compliance of cell and data companies. When you're on encrypted message lines, if they can get
But it's the fucking internet pipes is what they had. They can see what you've searched your entire life. Every time you fucking touched a key. That's not something that fucking
live-in girlfriend. That's only been in the last couple days though.
I don't know. If there's anything I feel good about, it's our ability to really trample on civil rights on the way to gathering information about possible threats. Now, of course, the government tends to systematically underrate right-wing threats, but whatever. I trust them to be somewhat active now, and it's like I'm saying, it's fucking crazy that they weren't ready, but they clearly weren't ready, and there's 0% chance that that's how they approach the inauguration.
The inauguration,
Airbnb is already fucking locking down
the inauguration for sure, but I don't think it's really hard to come away with the thought that this sort of rage. And, I heard someone bring this point up the other day, too. that it's this sort of rage that can also be organized. Now, they may be able to tap into people like, you know, your aunt, your uncle, whoever, but I think at the central part of it is led by people who grew up really on the internet. And I think that's a huge part of it too, is that like the Tea Party, you know, they were able to organize like in internet 2.0 or whatever we're in now. Maybe that was 3.0 days, but they were also like very old. Like compared to a lot of the people that are involved in this who might have gotten online whenever they were teenagers.
I don't know. I don't know who's involved in this. Like, there was some guy that was tweeting about how, you know, he and his wife regularly go to like observe these things. Like they live in DC and they want to have a finger on the pulse. And was, which, yeah, I don't know. Sidebar seems weird.
Dude,
you know, like it doesn't. I'd like to know more details, but my initial reaction is suspicion.
I mean, that seems like the sort of thing I would have done when I was 25, maybe.
It seemed like he was a lot older than that.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's been times where I wanted to attend a megachurch for fun.
I mean, I went to a Trump rally on mushrooms, so I get it.
You get it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's not like I'm foreign to the thing, but
grab
doing
the
it like
life
every
and head
weekend,
down to
like,
some. Yeah, that doesn't
we
seem.
just want to check it out. I don't know.
That seems like a complete other level than both the things we just mentioned.
But he was saying, like, just really stressing that it was the average, the median Republican voter is what was out there. Like it was the whole coalition. It wasn't just Q people. It was, you know, the country club Republicans, the Patricia McCloskey Republicans, you know, just every single kind of person that you identify as a Republican voter. They were all there. So it wasn't just 31-year-old Q obsessives.
Yeah, and I guess the distinction I'm trying to make is, and I think this is obviously, you know, and we'll say this on the bigger podcast rather than the big box. It's going to be very hard to tell who's who from the other, right? Whether you are like, I think we're rapidly approaching a time here where there aren't going to be that many people left that are against the Democratic Party who don't believe a significant amount of the deep state stuff. Even if they don't believe in siphoning off adrenal glands to keep yourself young, they'll at least believe enough
Which, you know,
of the...
stay woke on that.
Hey, they'll at least believe enough of the subversive shit to where it's not what you would think of as like normal. And so even
yeah, I mean, just the way this whole thing is going with everyone. I don't know that like particular beliefs are like a big part of this. It's just, you know, identify which side you're on and then hate the other side for the fact that they're the other side.
I would still say that even though you and I have maybe slightly different, and I don't even really know that they're that different, views still on like, I don't know. I voted for Bernie, obviously. I don't know that he would have been elected. I think you probably think he would have. And
I do.
We could have you could debate whether or not that actually would have happened, but I was tired of feeling like I wasn't voting for what I actually believed in.
He's not the kind of inspirational leader such as a Joe Biden.
No, I don't think it's based on that.
I
think it's a little
doesn't
more
have
based
the
on
personal charisma and magnetism.
Right. So I mean, we could debate that, but I still don't think that most of my zest to get involved has anything to do with just stopping Trump. Like I actually still do believe in 4 or 5 core things, and none of them have anything to do with fucking 4chan.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like at least...
But you can feel yourself do that stuff around the edges, or I certainly can. Like, on a topic that I like don't know much, you know... I know enough about guns, I guess, but that's always a big one that stands out to me, is like my base assumption, especially like early, long-time listeners of this podcast know that like where I start on most things is like no one should tell me what to do. And like, you know, I've layered other things on top of that
Very
as
Doug
I've
Peterson.
gone along. And when I heard Dougie told him like, hey, you want to tell me what to do?
You won't do it. I won't do what you
not if
tell
I'm
me.
sitting at home by myself, motherfucker.
Doug LaRocca.
I feel it. So gun rights is always something where like, you know, my base reaction is Like, you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do. Fuck off. Like, you want to tell me what I can and can't fucking own, motherfucker?
Classic seatbelt debate.
But because like I'm, like identify somewhat as part of a coalition that like I'll find myself saying things. There's probably podcasts where I've said them of like, and I mean, I do like somewhat look at it and I'm like, yeah, I think it would save lives. And I do like lives. It's an issue where honestly, I'm mainly just conflicted. But it's one where I can see the fact that I am part of this group where they believe all these other things. And so the fact that they believe this thing strongly, like I can feel myself just kind of slipping into like, a default like guns are bad and people who like them are bad. And that's not really naturally how I feel. That's not how I feel at all. But I can see like just, you're going with the flow, like you don't want to stop down and have an argument about every little thing. So you just be like, yeah, fuck those gun people.
Sure, but I think that's still based on an issue that is real and not based on, well, everyone else says that they've kidnapped all these kids and I believe some of the other stuff. So yours feels way more connected to reality. I mean, I guess mine would probably be, and I'm pretty sure you share this one with me, just some of the things that you're allowed to joke about or like even mention or even like, just some things that are culturally related.
They've taken words away from me that I felt like belonged to me.
You had to buzz on that one. I just, I always thought like, all right, I don't think that calling this bedroom the master bedroom is near as important as fixing decades of racist housing policy.
Yeah.
Now, if we do the latter, I'm not saying I'm not open to the former. I just don't know that they should carry the same or even disparate weight.
Just kind of like do the one and then just be like, well,
yeah, let's see how it shakes out.
Day.
Let's see how it shakes out. Perhaps nobody will care about the other one as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree.
Like, I'll just bet that the realtor that proposed that has like definitely had a time where they had a black client and they were like, we're going to show you these other houses actually.
Yeah. Master bedroom. So a couple of things I wanted to make sure we get to, because I was laughing really hard about two specific things after last week. The first one was, and we can't listen to Don Lemon say it, but if you haven't heard it, you should go find it. Because I think one thing that's really interesting about Trump is that he's so pervasive, and because he was such a big pop culture figure before he became president, it's extremely easy to imagine him saying literally anything. If you had told me that even George W. Bush, who I know sometimes, or, was rough around the edges with jokes, or I sent you the deal the other day of Nixon talking about Bohemian Grove, which is pretty shocking, but it's also Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
So, but like Trump is like that on steroids because you heard the Nixon tapes like way after the fact. The Trump stuff happened before. And it was on TV or it was on the WWF.
For decades continuously.
Right.
Before.
So, like,
anything
that someone sources as a quote that he said, like, I honestly think you should believe it. And especially
could it be more crazy than the Graydon Carter?
Especially this one, the Graydon Carter thing. Especially this one. I mean, Graydon Carter, Geico. People were asking why I was eating that pizza with a fork. But like, I almost feel like he won't refute this, which is from the conversation where Pence and Trump finally got crossways on Wednesday.
He 100% said that. 1,000%.
There's a reason he hasn't come out and said, I didn't say anything in that report. It's because he's like, that still hasn't landed. That fucker is, that's like, I'm up at the plate waiting on another
I did say
pitch.
that, and I hope Mike's still thinking about it because it was a good point.
You can either go down in history as a patriot or you can go down in history as a pussy.
I mean, that's 100% him. That's exactly the guy. There's nothing he's ever said so much as he has said that.
That is so funny, and it's right there with that made me bring up a.
It's the Woodward thing to me.
Good book
could be a good book, could be a bad book. I guess it's gonna be one of the bad ones. Mike, you could be a patriot, remembered by all, hailed as a hero, or you could just be that fucking pussy I always thought you were. What's it going to be, Mike?
Yeah, and it made me like, somebody sent me that, and I'm like, hey, the all-timer. And I don't even really know that there's a way that we can like work around this. But if you've never read the New Yorker article on Mike Pence, we've referenced it a million times.
It's amazing.
But Pence and Trump are at a meeting with legal scholars discussing what to do with Roe v. Wade with regard to the Supreme Court. They've essentially convinced Trump it does not matter what you do at the Supreme Court level. The states are not going to stand for this, or a lot of them. And Pence is upset because Pence is like, that's really the only reason I'm here. Like, I did all of this to advance this issue. And Trump said to Pence, you see, you wasted all this time and energy on it, and it's not going to end in abortion anyways. When the conversation turned to gay rights, Trump motioned towards Pence and joked, don't ask that guy. He wants to blank them all. And that's not even a curse word, but blank. You can look it up. But that almost 100% is something that he said. Like he's like jokingly doing the thumb thing, like, don't ask this guy. The other thing that it was shocking whenever we read this article the other day is that just because I'm really fascinated by the Trump-Pence relationship. Trump thinks Pence is great. Bannon told me, this is a reporter, but according to a longtime associate, Trump also likes to let Pence know who's boss. A staff member from Trump's campaign recalls him mocking Pence's religiosity. He said that when
he's not real, right?
When people met with we said that when people met with Trump,
Santa Claus, Mike.
When people met with Trump after stopping by Pence's office, Trump would ask them, "Did Mike make you pray?"
What a fucking weirdo.
That is so disrespectful. And then Mike Pence is just like, I guess this is. So that was one thing I wanted to make sure.
Another good one, Donald.
Yeah. You got me, pal.
Classic Joker. We love having your levity around the office.
That and this one, I guess I believe 90%, while the other two I believe 99.9% was just Maggie Haberman talking about how crestfallen he was over losing the PGA championship next year.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
She said, like, she laid it out, like, he's bummed about that they certified the election. He's a little more bummed about Twitter. He is beside himself about the New Jersey course losing the 2022 PGA. Like, he is absolutely
to be honest,
crushed.
I would be. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and it was like, you know,
deal.
if everything went...
I mean, that puts your course on the map. Have they ever hosted it before?
No, I don't think so. And then in addition to that...
Because, I mean, once you got it once, you're kind of in the rotation.
And people, you can charge more, for sure.
Oh, done. That's fucking millions.
So there was an entire story just about the finances and about the golf clubs because...
They should have one at Lakewood.
You know, I've never been. Iron Horse was my home course growing up. So... related to that is the Deutsche Bank thing. Mm-hmm. And if you
they're
remember,
also not having the PGA.
They're not having the PGA. They're not letting him post vlogs. If you remember, in any normal world, the story that the New York Times did a few months ago on his finances would have been a massive deal.
You liked that one.
Dude, it was like shocking to me how broke he is. Like,
I mean, that's always been the story on him. But you're right. There's a lot of things that like you've kind of known to be true in general that whenever you learn in specific, the details can still be quite shocking. I'm 100% with you. I'm not trying to downplay your
and
your
probably shock. It didn't end up mattering. So I was probably too stoked on the finances.
Yeah, he did lose.
But they were just talking about what deep shit he's in and that he's borrowing against borrowing and borrowing against borrowing and that a lot of this stuff is coming due. And Deutsche Bank was continuing to lend to him, and they've completely stopped. So he has a ton of debt with them.
I saw there was one bank that said they were ending their relationship, but I guess to like make it easy for themselves, we're like, so we're just going to forgive the $100 million of loans.
Jesus Christ, dude. That's
we just don't want anything to do with you. So, and we know that we would have to hear from your lawyers if we said anything else. So like, we'll see you.
That feels very like college girlfriendy of like,
mean?
look, you know, vice versa. One of us has a lot of the other one's shit. I'd really love to get it back from you, but I also never want to see your face again because you're so bad that you can keep those joggers.
Yeah.
I have one pair. They don't make them anymore, but you suck. So please just keep them.
It is crazy that they don't make clothes consistently, Jake.
Dude, you have no idea. Dude, I'll straight up be Googling the product number, like from the tag, like the SKU or whatever. Like, I have a pair of Nike, like really thin, but not so tight that they make me uncomfortable. And I don't even necessarily mean physically uncomfortable. I mean, like, I can't pull them off. And I only bought one pair. Massive, massive regret. And they just don't make them anymore. The ones they make now are either too tightly cuffed or they're too tight on the hips. And it crushes me, dude.
Yeah, I had a pair of beige Puma Romas that I thought
remember
that
those.
Puma would have made the Roma in beige into perpetuity. I felt like that was safe. I didn't feel like I needed to buy 7 pairs at the time, but
Dude, that's what I
never
do
been
now,
able
though.
to find them again.
I have 10 of these.
If I had the chance to, but if God
t-shirt.
gave me a one-time shot to get another set of those Romas, I'd buy 100 of them.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's such a bummer.
Yeah.
But so that relates to the golf thing just because it's starting to look like to pay this shit off if they can't borrow any more money, all of their company's assets are property. And a huge part of it is golf. Except now, I thought you would find this quote very funny. I think this was an AP article because people are canceling their memberships at Trump golf clubs because they don't want to be embarrassed about being in a Trump golf club.
Now?
Yeah. Dude, couldn't you say now about like 95% of the stuff you've seen in the last couple weeks from people who were previously allied to him? Obviously.
Yeah. No, it's just, I mean, like, I get it, but
I don't.
Like, well, I mean, it's because he lost, right? Like, so now he does it, but it's not it happened the second he lost.
It would not, if he had just lost, it would not have happened without last Wednesday.
I think that it would have just happened slower. Like, once he's out of office, people aren't kissing his ass, are they?
If you would have gone to the inauguration,
which that was 0% chance.
I agree.
From the second that he had his inauguration, the chance that he was going to go to the one where unless, like, maybe if it's like Don Jr.'s, although he would definitely skip Don Jr.'s.
Yeah. He'd be watching Bloodsport while
Gotta
he
show him who's boss.
makes Eric skip Don Jr.'s to fast forward past the boring parts.
I do need you for this, Eric.
But I think if he had, and this is a complete bizarro world alternate universe, if he concedes, it's basically everything you knew he was never going to do, then I definitely think he still could have had good standing. But that was just, it's not even worth talking about. But so they're talking about all these people who are canceling their memberships at Trump golf clubs. They're having to like shut some of them down temporarily because they're worried about, I don't know what they're worried about. And that's lowering the value of the courses. And this person who works at the club and requested anonymity, of course. They don't want to be shamed for being for being a member of this golf club. Do you think a guy who works for a financial firm or a drug company wants to see his picture in the paper? Well, I'd say it might be about time for your picture to be in the paper.
I'm going to start a paper that just publishes those people's pictures. Let them know, here's the motherfucker.
I understand that I was working at a drug company that was preying upon the dysfunction of our political system and and sickness of needy people. But look, I don't want to end up in the press.
Yeah.
I want to see. Look, I got to go to my daughter's recital. Do I want them to know that I just bilked this company out of $500 million at the expense of my workers? I don't.
No, probably not. Do you have more about the Capitol stuff? I have a small detour on another topic. So
Nah, go ahead. I mean, I imagine we could talk about it forever and people probably don't want to hear that because somehow Georgia was only last Tuesday night. Like, that feels like it was 2 months ago. And like,
because everything moves so fast, I will still, like this morning, I had a little pop of like, we sure did win those 2 Senate seats, didn't we?
That feels nice whenever it gets washed away so quickly.
Yeah, because
everything got so bad
the day to process it.
Yeah.
Like now like a week later, like, I feel like there's enough mental space for me to be like, would have sucked if we lost even one of those, but we didn't lose either. We just had the great little pulled the inside straight. I used that today. I don't know what that means. What's an inside straight?
You mean like in racing?
I think it's a poker term.
Oh, then I don't have a clue.
But isn't whenever you have
I don't know anything about poker.
a narrow road to walk, but you navigate it a narrow path to victory, but you find a way.
So you used it though.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I understand the meaning. I don't.
Okay.
Like I understand the metaphorical meaning. I do not understand the literal meaning.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Got it.
What particular set of cards you have to have an inside straight.
I only know it as the 1951 Western drama starring. Well, it doesn't even really say here.
Okay.
The joke's
I
incomplete.
guess Google could have done a little more for you than it did there.
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation with our friend Justin today and learned some shocking things that I wanted to relay to you. If you want to consider this, revenge, perhaps ultimate victory for what happened last month, then you're welcome to do so. It's really no agenda, I would say, but people will read in what they're going to read in. So, Clemson was founded by a guy named Thomas Clemson. Whenever he died, all the land that he owned, he said that in his will, I want to donate this to the state to make a public university. He specifically wanted an agricultural university. I guess Mississippi had a fine agricultural university working that he was quite jealous of. That turned out to be Mississippi State University, as we know it now.
He accumulated the wealth that he bought that land with from the Rainbow Six series.
That's Tom Clancy, not Tom Clemson.
These goddamn cameras, I wasn't able to... People could tell that I was excited about that one before it even left the pitcher's hand. It makes it even worse.
But no, how
I
he
quit.
did get the money is he married a woman whose father had a large amount of land, and whenever the father died, he passed it on to his daughter, and then the daughter died before Thomas did, so Thomas then had the right to say whatever he wanted to do with the land that he now inherited. And I don't think it's a big shock. You could guess what this land in South Carolina was used for previously. But what I am here to tell you...
Tesla electronic truck.
Not a Cybertruck production plant.
Okay.
It's actually John C. Calhoun's plantation.
Wow.
Clemson University is John C. Calhoun's actual plantation. The plantation building is still on campus. Like, it's there. It's like a fucking memorial to John C. Calhoun.
Dude, you know what? I remember seeing, I can't remember if Dan told me about this or if because like anybody will, whenever somebody tells me they're going somewhere, I'll just Google the place.
Yeah.
And look at the map around and
Yeah,
maybe some
yeah.
images. They have a plantation hall there.
Yeah.
I remember
that was
thinking,
where
like,
John C. Calhoun lived out his days.
Wow.
The first buildings of the university, the university, all this. I mean, obviously, John C. Calhoun, or he died before the Civil War, but the Civil War was done. Slaves were freed by the time that the Clemson University. It was sharecroppers at the time that it was turned into a university. But most of the early buildings built with prison labor. So couldn't get that slave labor, but next best thing sitting right here. So
I'm not saying this as a big fan of Major Applewhite. And my boys from the late 90s, but don't you think that's like infinitely more legacy-wise racist than singing The Eyes of Texas?
When I learned that,
like The Eyes of Texas being adapted from The Eyes of the South, like it's almost like a third order.
I think that it's a little worse. Like the
I think it was
like the guy,
performed.
like the first person that it came out their mouth, I believe, was in blackface as they were doing it.
Oh,
or something
definitely.
like that. Yeah,
definitely. And I would be totally fine if they said, you got to stop. But that seems a lot worse than being.
I was quite interested in Sark's answer there. Like someone got to
the interview got to him.
Up until this point, thought that this was a bit of an open question where I was interested to see where the next moves are.
No.
I think that they're clearly closing ranks around no fucking chance, over my dead body, which is surprising because the last I heard, I mean, this is like the third or fourth game of the season. It was a while ago. Was just like that the band did the survey and the kids in the band were like, I don't want to fucking play it.
Yeah, at least half, I think, was the number.
Yeah,
they said that half wouldn't want to play it. So, you might have a new band.
I
got a new Pope, new band.
I guess so. It seems fucked up. Seems fucked up if they don't want to play it to make them play it.
Dude, I wonder though,
It does beg the question of, dude, who wants this? We should make that a regular segment.
Dude, who wants this?
I mean, obviously the answer is just the boosters, but whenever you're looking at a football game and like ostensibly all of the songs are being played for the benefit of the players. It's like the people playing them for the people them playing them for. You think about everyone involved in that equation, what percentage of the people actually want to go through with this ritual? It just seems fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly just like trying to create that general bond between band, player, and fan. Like, just get everybody on the same like synergy of like and I think it's a common one where 90% of people, probably higher, I think I'm being conservative there, that had gone to Texas games and sang that song had no idea.
Certainly,
and that goes
and
to
I bet
players
if you take
and
that,
band as well.
Yeah, if you take that survey of the band 2 years ago, I think that they'd be like, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my only other quick follow-up is, and I don't know, maybe we just need Justin on the case here. Like, I doubt that there are that many campuses that are actual land owned by vice presidents where they had people enslaved. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder how many more of these there are. You know, like how many more?
It seems like a plantation to Southern University.
Well,
like,
sure.
If Alabama's not originally a plantation, I'm going to be shocked.
Right. But the fact that, you know, I guess it's a matter of how many times was it bequeathed before it became, like, how far are you from like actual screams of slaves?
Yeah.
And this one is not very far.
No.
So it's like, I wonder how many of those you could go through in, I don't know, half the country. And then I guess the follow-up would be like, not does it really matter, but like, what do you do about it now? Like, what I would say you do about it now is you should probably teach a class at orientation about this. Like, you should probably tell people the second that they get to campus, like, you should be very proud and thankful for the opportunity to be here. And you need to understand that you are standing on the graves of people who helped build this economy, who were never given any proper thanks for it. And in fact, a lot of their families still haven't been, you know, on down the line, and drill it. I mean, that's a very teachable moment.
Yeah.
To tell people, like, look, we're here.
No, it's not like I want to shut down the school. I think schools are good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's
a better use of the land than many other things I could think of.
Golf.
Yeah.
It's a better use of land than golf.
That's got to be top two golf courses and universities as far as.
Dude, I didn't even know that was a
plantations
thing.
Into. What, plantation into golf course?
I knew that was a thing, but what I didn't know is that, like, how many upscale universities have golf courses that are like nice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I guess I just assume the golf team usually just plays it like, I mean, whatever. I don't know, like whatever muni is down the road. But I mean, I had no idea that was like even something that, you know, then if you get alumni get free. Hell, dude, like every base has one. Like, there was one in Quantico whenever we went out to, I don't know if it's every, but a lot of them do.
I didn't know about bases. But yeah, I mean, you know, Notre Dame has one. I know whenever the aforementioned Justin would tailgate at Michigan, it was on the golf course.
All right, so we have to go. But have you seen the story of the lady whose husband was murdered in Oak Cliff while they were walking last October?
No.
So this lady and her husband, last October, they're walking. He gets murdered. He's the IT director, I believe, at American Airline, some airline.
Probably
company.
American or Southwest.
Yeah, but I think it might even have been a private company. I don't recall.
Okay.
So he's murdered at that time. I'm watching the news last night. We talked about this on the show today. And I'm just making the prediction for you that this is absolutely either at minimum a Dateline, at best at least a few-part podcast series. They arrested the guy who killed her husband yesterday. He is her high school ex-boyfriend. And as they're walking through this story on WFAA, great reporting, thought the presentation of the facts was a little bit misleading because that's how they said it. They were like, you know, and her ex-boyfriend, she's 48, her ex-boyfriend drove from Tennessee and murdered her husband in cold blood. And according to her, attacked her. And she was able to get away whenever, you know, a neighbor saw, and he fled. She didn't recognize the man because he had a full mask on, crime mask. And so she had
COVID safe.
Right. She had no description of him. But arrest affidavits show, again, he was murdered October 9th, that from September 30th to October 30th, the wife and the arrested sent more than 15,000 text messages to one another, including the arrested telling her that he had a 5-year plan for how they were going to end up together. And I'm like, what the fuck? You should have led with that.
Yeah.
The first thing is,
You're right.
New questions emerge
about the wife's complicity.
Yeah, and like right now, I think she's still just named as witness because she was a witness. And
it's probably irresponsible. If I were WFA's lawyer, I would not say to go on air with the story of this
Dan
woman.
did not have that lawyer today.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't remember if we ever talked about it on here, but that's very similar to my cousin's situation.
Really?
I mean, not like it was like it was a more recent ex-boyfriend than that, but it was yeah, I had a cousin who was murdered, and it was the woman that he was seeing. She gave the impression to her previous boyfriend that she might be reconsidering. Like she went, I believe that I think that they were like kind of not in like a super event. I don't know. I don't have a lot of great details here, but I know for sure that she slept with the dude while she was dating my cousin, and after she had broken up with him, and he kind of took that as like, well, maybe if I could get this guy out of the way, then I could really have the life I wanted to have. So he fucking snuck over to his house and shot him in the head.
Yeah, murder as a lead blocker that's.
Yeah, I mean, he's in jail, and he's going to be for a long time. And, I don't know if she writes or not, but it's probably not the outcome he was hoping for.
And I guess,
certainly not the one I was.
Obviously, the question you're asking is like, what was her, obviously, you have no idea what level of involvement she had. But I thought it very odd that the window they provided was September 30 to October 30. The murder happens October 9th. So quick and dirty math here. There had to have been 10,000 more.
That part of the plan's done. Let's talk about stage 2.
Dude, and then the other crazy thing was she said that when she was attacked.
I would love, I can't wait for the podcast. I hope that she talks openly. I hope we can really get to the bottom.
I need a jailhouse interview.
Oh, yeah.
I need, whether it's Dateline, whatever.
Just how they get back together. I mean, you assume it's Facebook.
You always assume it's Facebook. That's right.
But just like I would love to her like if she's the kind of person that can really shed light on her inner dialogue, like just the what's going through your head is you're like. I mean, your high school boyfriend from 30 years ago, like I'm younger.
I don't know how long they dated after high school. That might be a term that people just use if you start dating at 17 and you're together.
But I'm just saying, like,
still,
the girl I dated in college, if she contacted me now, I'd be like, I don't really want to talk.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
I haven't dreamed about you in at least 2 months.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I also thought my final note on that was just that when she told the cops about it back in October, she said, well, I was thrown to the ground. He duct taped my wrists and tried to grab my jewelry before he ran off. Now, Mino brought up an interesting point that possibly if this guy's acting alone, he's trying to provide a counter motive, and maybe even possibly if they're working together, a counter motive. But my thought is like, nobody's fucking murdering your husband like crime of passion style in the middle of the street, broad daylight, and then throwing you to the ground and being like, oh, while I'm here, a necklace. Like that, none of that added up to me at all as they were laying it out. I just thought
you're right.
That's not how a robbery works. Like,
I mean, I think you're assigning a level of sophistication to robberies that is somewhat uncommon. Like I'm just thinking about the one that our treasured listener. I forget what
name he asked us to call him. It doesn't matter.
I just know the real one.
Yeah.
But he, like the guy that robbed him, like I could absolutely see that guy being like, well, I'm gonna shoot him for the wallet and like, ooh, a necklace.
Yeah, but he did it at an ATM though. These people are out walking their dog. Like that's not a typical robbery spot.
If I needed heroin, shooting a rich person, like it's a path.
Yeah, but dude, who's got even like their wallet on them walking their dog at all normally? That's
I
not
always
even
keep my wallet on me.
Really?
And that's how I don't lose it.
Yeah, I'm minimal
Otherwise, I
wallet
would lose
possession.
it.
Like, do you keep it in your back pocket when you sit down?
Yeah, it's there right now.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
Chiropractor City.
pockets are big enough. Like, it's not like I'm not sitting on it. Like, it's kind of to the
side.
Yeah.
It's outside of your ass.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I got.
Oh, hey, yeah.
We'll see ya.
Yep.
That's it for tonight. The high school special is next, so until tomorrow. For everyone who's been a part of this